Thank you. Nice welcome. So, guys, I think I have about an hour, so I'm going to take about 90 minutes, if that's okay with everybody. Just a little humor. Just a little humor. Part of what I want to do today is give you all a framework on consultative selling. Everybody's looking for the magic bullet, that silver bullet or that magic dust. It doesn't exist. What I'm going to do is give you a framework, a structure, so that you can take a look at your sales process and all the components around it to figure out, are you doing the right things effectively or ineffectively, or are they not serving you well at all? So I'm going to give you that context. My plan is to try to get through that in about 45, 50 minutes, and then leave about 5 or 10 minutes at the end just to take questions and answer things that you may have, because I want to find ways of giving back to you versus, here's my canned speech, if everybody's okay with that. Does that work for everyone? Okay, good. So, how many of you are selling or have people who are selling for you? I should see every hand on this, guys, okay? Because when I look at a skill set that you have, selling to me is everybody needs it. Who here has small children? Do they sell? Right? When they want something, they sell you, right? Now, they're hard sellers, they're hard closers, they're tenacious, they never give up, right? And they will badger you to death, right? They are the best natural salespeople, but for some reason, as we get older, we kind of forget about those things. And it's yet, when you want something badly enough, you will do anything that you need to get it, and we kind of lost that drive. So we're going to talk about consultative selling. Who here, let me get my clicker, make sure that's working. Okay. Who wants to shorten their sales cycle? Show of hands. Okay. Who wants to increase their close rate? Okay, I like that. Have more competitive wins. Okay. Eliminate discounting, because we're going to definitely talk about that, right? Better cash flow. Okay, like that. Higher profit margins? Oh, there we go. Okay. Recession-proof their business. Because you're learning all kinds of tools. I'm going to give you one more tool on that. Be the trusted advisor. Without trust, you've got nothing. So we'll talk about those things. So it starts with a strategy. Does everybody have in front of them a piece of paper with numbers on it? Okay. So let's do a little exercise. So everybody pull that out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 60 seconds to do this exercise, okay? So here's the exercise. And let me get my timer out. Okay, here's the exercise. On your page, you'll find the number 1. I'd like you to circle that. Then on the page, you're going to find the number 2. Circle that. Now, whichever hand you just used to circle those 2 numbers, I want you to switch the pen to the other hand. Okay, there's a method to my madness, and I'll explain it in a second. So with your weaker hand, I want you to then find, when I say go, you're going to find the 3, the 4, the 5, and go sequentially, one number at a time. There's always a smart aleck who just takes their pen and circles the whole page and goes, got him, right? So I just want you to circle one number at a time. I'm going to give you 60 seconds. We're going to see how far you can get. Everybody ready? Go. Ready, stop. Okay, down at the bottom of the page, I want you to write down the last number that you circled, whatever that highest number was. Everybody got it? 2, nice. This is the advanced group up here in front, folks. Okay, now flip that paper over and you'll see the exact same set of numbers. Now, I'm going to give you a strategy, right? The last couple days we've been talking about strategy, right? What's a strategy? It's planning, right? So I'm going to give you 3 possible strategies you can use on this page. So the first strategy is just do what you just did. Okay? Using the left hand, looking for numbers randomly, trying to figure it out. And it's a strategy, right? And it works, but it's probably not the most effective strategy. So I'm going to give you a second one. Down the center of the page, I want you to draw a line right down the middle. So you're dividing the numbers equally in half. So this is a second strategy. More effective than the first, by the way. Now, what you'll notice, bless you, what you'll notice is the 1 is on what side of the page? The left. And the 2 is where? And the 3 is? And the 4 is? Okay, so now you got a zigzag pattern, right? Little strategy, it'll make it a little more faster for you. But let me give you a third strategy. Now take your pen and I want you to split the page in half. There you go, right across the page. Now you have 4 squares. Now where's the 1? Where's the 2? Where's the 3? And the 4? And where do you think the 5 is going to be? You guys are psychic. Really good. Okay? So there's a third strategy. Now, of those 3 strategies I gave you, which one do you think is most effective? Right. So we're going to do the exercise again. Okay? I'm going to give you 1 minute, same exercise. This time, however, I'm going to let you switch the pen to your dominant hand. Okay? And go. And stop. How much farther did you get the second time than the first? Well, first of all, did you get farther the second time than the first? You did. How much farther? I heard double. I heard 3. Who said 3 times? Okay, 3 times. So you just, if this were business, you just did what? You just doubled or tripled your business with what? A strategy. Okay, now let's think about some other things because I'm going to get into consultative selling. But, so we had a strategy. What else did we have? You use your strength. Okay, what else? You had a pattern. Let's call it a process, right? So you had a process. Also, Chet talked about the Dream 100, right? That's about a very focused approach. So you had some focus. What was that? I didn't catch that one. You use your strongest arm. Now, the strongest arm versus the weaker arm was what? How about training? How about skills? Right? Because your weaker arm, you don't use it as much, right? It doesn't have the fine motor skills, but the stronger arm. Now, how long would it take to train the weaker arm to match the stronger arm? An hour a week for a couple years? Okay, I don't know if anybody ever broke their arm and had to use the other hand for a while, right? How long did it take to get the other one conditioned? It healed in 6 weeks, but it still wasn't where it needed to be. Well, penmanship wasn't the same, right? So if that's 6 weeks on just training a hand, what do you think is going to happen when you need to train your sales organization to be more effective? So what do we learn? Strategies. We learned process. We learned focus. We learned training. And I'm going to show you one other thing. Who got to 60? 1? Anybody else got to 60? Okay, who got to 50? Nobody got to 50. Who got to 40? Okay, because here's what I'm going to show you. The first one who got to 50 or above, who comes up to the stage, gets $100. But only if you want it. If you don't, you got to get here to get it. Now, how badly do you want it? How quickly can you move? There you go.
Oh,
nice job.
All right.
Okay, now, there's $100 for you, sir.
Wow, okay.
Thank you. Nice, nice, nice. What did you just see there, guys? You saw drive, right? How badly do you want it? You saw incentive in action. A proper incentive will incentivate and motivate people to do more, right? You also saw some obstacles. What were the obstacles? People in closer could get here faster than people in the back, right? But yet there's still a way to overcome it if you want to overcome it. How badly do you want it? Did you learn a little lesson from that? So that's my whole presentation in 3 minutes. Okay, now let me fill in some of the blanks for you. Okay, so a strategy, I'm not going to go into strategy. You've been hearing about strategy all week. We just did a little exercise on that. Most companies don't have a strategy. And the difference between no strategy and having one is the difference between the first part of the exercise and flipping your page over and doing the second. You doubled and tripled your business with just a strategy. Best strategies always win. We'll get into that. Focus. We talk about that. Align marketing and sales. Aligning your marketing and sales efforts is critical, so everybody's pulling in the same direction. Focus on your ideal client. Chet calls this your best buyer. Your best buyer strategy. What do we know about best buyers? They buy faster. They refer more business. They refer better business. They're more profitable. They're better clients to work with. You keep the relationship for longer. I mean, who doesn't want that? Okay? So, who are your best clients? And you may want to just kind of jot the notes down and just think about this later on tonight, but who are your best clients? What makes them such a great fit? Now, if I take that and I think about what makes my ideal client profile, because you might want to tweak it a little bit, don't confuse your biggest clients with your best clients. How many of you have like one company that gives you lots of money, but they treat you poorly? Or they don't respect your advice? But you know what? They give you lots of revenue. But you kind of hate it every time you have to deal with them. Everybody's had that experience, right? And you're going, so don't confuse your biggest client with your best client. Okay? So once we identify our best clients, we've got to ask ourselves, how do we get more of those? And that's what you've been hearing about strategy. You've been hearing about marketing. You've been hearing about internet, right? So I'm not going to get into any of that because you've already got that. So, but I do want you to think about this. How you market is going to influence the kind of salesperson you have and the kind of sales process that you have. Okay, so drip or nurture marketing. Are you sitting there, mailing something to them every week, every 2 weeks, every month to build relationship, right? Wave marketing, you just do a blitz. You send it out there, some coupon in the mail or special offer, and that's it. That totally different salesperson, there's no relationship built there. One-time hitter, special offer, TV, radio, mail, internet, all these things, educational, or is it product or service pitch? So all these things matter, and they require a different salesperson, and they require a different kind of sales process. And most people think that it's a one-size-fits-all, and that's a problem, because it's not. It's not that simple. It's pieces of the puzzle. So one thing we need to understand is the prospect's buying cycle. Where do we intersect with the prospect, their buying cycle and our sales process? Where do they meet? And is there a mismatch? So let's take a little closer look at their cycle. Neil Rackham wrote a book called Spin Selling and took a look at people's cycles, and he defined 4 of them. I'm going to put one more in there. No recognition of needs. They don't even know that they need it. Imagine trying to sell an iPod to a caveman. Right? They're not even ready to hear it. Now, we could try to educate them a little bit, but they might say to you, I'm not interested in an iPod, but you don't happen to have a wheel, do you? Right? So we want to get them things that they need, that they can use, that is appropriate. We may have to educate them on why this would be valuable for them, but an iPod versus where a caveman is in their life is just too big of a gap. Everybody with me? Okay? Too big of a gap. So some people you sell to do recognize they need something. They may not have taken action yet, but they recognize, hey, we got a problem, or I've got a certain place I want to be, a vision or a pleasure, and they're going, I want to do something about this. At least they recognize it. They're going to evaluate their options if it's important enough to them. What can I do? Some people want to do it themselves. Some people want to come to you. Some people will go to somebody else, but they're going to say, what can I do? And they may do it, like I said, do it themselves. That's okay. Selection of a solution. This is, again, the phases that they move through. So I do want to do something about it. What am I going to do? And then last is, they're going to pick a vendor or solution, and you've got to recognize, does my sales process match their buying process? And I'll give you an example. Had a client years ago who did Microsoft training, word processing, editorial type stuff, and they basically did catalogs. They sent out these catalogs to all kinds of companies throughout the metro area, and people would call in. Now, they had a small sales organization, and they were all trained in consultative selling. But here's the problem. The people calling in were ready to buy. You don't need to consult to somebody who's read the catalog, knows what they want to order. They're calling in to just place their order, and the salespeople want to do what? Take them through a whole consultative process? So you see the disconnect? Consultative selling is a great thing to have, but if you're not using the right tool for the right job at the right time, it can do as much damage as it is help. So what we did with them is we took the salespeople off the phone. We just experimented for a day. Said, let's just take one rep off the phone. Let's take an administrative person. We'll put her on the phone. She knows the products. She can sign people up. And we just want her to ask one question. How can I help you? And they usually said, I'd like to sign up for a class. Okay, no problem. Yep, credit card. What class do you want? Boom, done. We tripled sales in that one day, just in that one move. Now, guess what? Salesforce was in the way. What would you do in that situation?
Use them somewhere else.
Exactly. Use them somewhere else. And that's what we did. We got order takers and put them on the phone. And we took the salespeople who were very skilled and we turned them into outside account reps. And then we identified the Dream 100 to go after, and we had them going after those accounts. Now, be aware that when you switch and you change your strategy and you change your focus, not everybody's going to be able to make it. One person in 30 days quit. It's too much pressure for her. Another person did absolutely fantastic and went and closed, it was like 5 accounts in the first month. They were thrilled. And the other 2 did mediocre. I mean, this is all just in the first month. So just be prepared for that. So taking a look at what you do and how you sell and the people you're selling to, are you intersecting or are you mismatching? Okay? Now, next thing I'd like you to understand is the psychology of the buyer. What drives them into action? And it's been alluded to a couple times this week, but what I'm looking for is, do they have a compelling reason to make a change? Not a reason, but a compelling reason. What's compelling? Okay, anybody get a paper cut today? Yeah, pain's pretty compelling. So we're looking for things that are compelling, and I'll give you some examples of compelling. Pain, fear, or pleasure. All compelling to some degree. Pain is the most compelling. The brain is literally hardwired 100 times more for avoidance of pain than seeking pleasure. Did you know that? 100 times more. Now, don't get me wrong. This doesn't mean you should all go out and start trying to just deal with the pain, because a lot of people are very motivated to take things to a whole new level, and pleasure and vision, they'll take it to. Industries. What industry sells to pain? Meaning, I'm in trouble right now and I got to get out of it and I'm suffering. Lawyers, yes, lawyers do. Who else? Bail bondsmen, yeah, bail bondsmen do. Medication, absolutely. Doctors, absolutely. Who sells to fear? Insurance, exactly. You can't get the insurance after the event. So insurance sells to fear. Who else sells to fear? Securities? Okay. Yeah, house alarms, exactly. Guard services, things like that. Who else sells to fear? Guns for protection? Exactly. I missed the one in the back. Congress, oh boy. Yeah, absolutely. And then who sells the vision? Who sells the pleasure? Tony Robbins? Viagra? Well, that may be a mix in there somewhere, okay. Entertainment? travel and entertainment definitely sell to the pleasure, to the vision. So taking a look at those, there's pain, fear, and pleasure. So be aware of what business are you in and who are you selling to and what is it that motivates them. Now, an amoeba. Anybody remember the amoeba slide film when you were a kid? And then science class, right? And they'd have this little amoeba in the film, and they'd say, watch what happens when we drop a little sugar on here. And the amoeba goes moving towards the sugar, right? They go, watch what happens when we put a little vinegar on here. And the amoeba goes sliding away from the vinegar. So even at a cellular level, as simple as an amoeba, they know the difference between pain and pleasure. And to have anybody think that people are motivated by anything different is a bunch of hogwash. Now, they may give you different ways of saying it, but when you look at purely from a psychology point of view, it is pain, fear, and pleasure. That's what drives people. Who here has been to the emergency room? When you went to the emergency room, did you open up the yellow pages or did you get on the internet? And did you do a little spreadsheet and start comparing things? Did you call the emergency room up and say, how long have you guys been in business? How many doctors are on staff? How many of them are certified? Oh, what's your daily rate? Anybody ask those questions? What did you do? You just went there, didn't you? You didn't care what the credentials of the doctor were. You didn't care what their rates were. But you took action because pain drives people into action. And the thing you have to tune into when you listen to people is this something that's just an annoyance or is it something that's really driving them? Because a paper cut, you'll do what? Ignore, right? You go, oh, ouch. And then 10 seconds later, it's gone. Second degree burn, what will you do with that? A little ice, maybe an aloe vera plant, but the next day you forgot that it even happened. Break an arm, break a leg. Oh, I'll get to it tomorrow. I don't think so, right? That will drive you into action so compelling. I'll give you an example. And it's sometimes that other people's pain could compel you into action. Now, I've got a neighbor, his name is Paul, that's his real name, so I hope that's on tape. Paul was getting ready to get married, and Paul's a little on the thrifty side, we'll say. His car, his fiance's car kept breaking down. Paul didn't want to spring for one. On the day of the wedding, she was driving down the interstate with you know where this is going, right? With her dress. Car broke down. She jumps out pulls over the side, locks it up, jumps out with her wedding dress, sitting there jumping on the side of the interstate, right? Some lady pulls over, picks her up, takes her 45 minutes out of her way. Yeah, you know, there's a saint, right? Wedding happens. Guess what was sitting in their driveway before they left for their honeymoon the next day? Did he have a compelling reason to change? You bet he did. So for a while it wasn't compelling, but come honeymoon night it was very compelling. So somebody's pain can motivate you into action if it's the right thing. Okay. There was a study done on CEOs, on how they buy. Now, yeah, I quote the study because it was of CEOs, but I think this is true with most people. You can tell me. How CEOs buy. This was a study, and the first thing they do is they go to the people they've been doing business with. Why? They trust them. They trust them, they know the quality of the work, and it's like, hey, we're a good fit. Why would you go somewhere else if you had somebody that you trusted? So that's the first source they went to. If they didn't have somebody that they used, then they asked their network of peers, friends, buddies, family. Hey, I'm looking to do this. Who have you used in the past? What was your experience like with them? And this is called a referral. And a referral, just so you know, if you get a referral from somebody who knows you and has used you and trusts you, and they're referring somebody who trusts them, that's an 80% close rate. Now, Jay, the other day, day before yesterday, said, how many of you have referral systems in place? Now, I'll give you a range because your referral rate, your close rate, depending on how the referral is done, should be somewhere between 50 to 80% close rate. Here's what a referral is not. A referral is not, here's a name and a number, you can call them and tell them that you can use, that I said to call. That's not a referral. Okay. A referral is they call ahead of time and say, I've done business with these guys, I love them, you said you're looking for somebody, what if I just set up a three-way call, or what if I do an introduction? Hear the difference? A name and a number is a 10% close rate. A hand introduction, whether it's on the phone or face-to-face, is 50 to 80%. For a little more work, you can increase your close rate significantly, right? 4 to 8-fold. Third thing they do, if they don't know somebody they're using now and they don't have anybody in their network who can refer them, then they contact the brand that they recognize. How do you get brand recognition? Be the first, advertising, marketing, exactly. So that's the power of advertising and marketing if you're using it correctly. And the last thing they do is they shop around when they don't recognize anybody. Anybody have the shop around experience? What's that like? Okay, so let's talk about shopping around. So when somebody tells you this is an opportunity, and yet they tell you also that they're going to talk to some other people, how many other people do they usually talk to? 3? Two other things. Normal corporate policy is I'm going to talk to 3 to 4 people, right? Whether you're buying something for your home, swimming pool, landscaping services, something for the office, but the policy tends to be, yeah, we're going to talk to 2, 3, 4 different people. Now, here's the thing to pay attention to. How many of you do business with friends and family? Okay, how many of you have been able to tell them no when it wasn't the right fit anymore? How hard was that? Painful, right? For some, yes, but for many of you, no. And so here's what happens. The thing to look out for is this. When they've got to shop around, you've got to ask yourself, are they allowing you to build relationship? Because we all know selling is relationship. Correct? So if selling is about relationship, what's the first thing every sales methodology teaches us? You got to bond. You got to build rapport. You got to build relationship. And that's what we try to do. And what do they do when they're shopping around? Stiff arm, right? They keep us at a distance and they tell us, here's a real opportunity, but they keep us at bay and they don't let us bond. Why? No trust, fear. Okay, so I'm going to give you a story here. I learned this the hard way after jumping through many hoops and many proposals and lots of wasted time and deals that didn't get closed. And my grandfather was a farmer. He had sheep. And sheep, if you know anything about sheep, when they get pregnant and give birth, they only give birth to one lamb. But every now and then they'll have twins. And when they have twins, they keep one and they reject the other. So if you're a farmer and you want to keep that lamb because that's money to you, you have to bottle feed it. So as kids, when we go over to Grandpa and Grandma's house, we're always thrilled because there was always in the springtime a lamb that needed to be bottle fed. And guess what? That lamb got a nickname. It got a name. Anybody want to take a wild guess? Lammy. It's pretty sophisticated. Okay. So the little lamb got a name called Lammy, and we bottle fed it. And guess what happened every year when it's time to go to slaughter? Guess who didn't go? Lammy didn't go to slaughter. And what I started to realize is in competitive situations, when they're talking to 3 or 4 different sources, if you become their pet, you're getting the business. But if you're not the pet and they're keeping you at arm's length, guess who's going to slaughter? You're not getting the deal, but you're putting hours into it, right? Lots of work. You're calling them. You're following up. They're not returning your phone calls, but they're telling you that you're still an opportunity. And what happens? Absolutely nothing. Now, what if they were honest with you? What if they said, we know who we're going to do business with, but we still need 2 other bids so we can go beat them up over price. Would you give us a proposal? Would you do it? No. So the game begins. Some might. So then there's some reasons to be made for it. So how CEOs buy? So let's play a game. I'm not going to ask for a volunteer. I'm just going to ask you to, I'm going to change the game a little bit. Here's the game. If we had to describe the stereotype of a salesperson, what words would you give me? Pushy. What else? Tenacious. What else? Chatty. Yeah, chatty, talkative, drive me crazy. What else? Arrogant. Okay. Pig-headed. Okay. Excited. Confident. What else? Professional. Did I hear professional? Okay, maybe. Used car, definitely. What else? Did I hear snake oil? Did I hear polyester? I heard self-indulging. Okay, now, for those of you who have small kids, for most of the words that you heard described, is that what you want them to grow up to be? I want you to be a fast-talking, self-centered, arrogant, sleazy, snake oil, polyester, used car salesperson. Is that what you want? But here's the challenge. whenever you're out selling, if you do anything that even reeks or hints of being a quote-unquote stereotypical salesperson, what box do you get put in? You get put in that stereotypical box. And what happens in the relationship from there on out? We're talking about trust, right? What happens to trust? Gone, out the window. You don't stand a chance, and now you're back into a bid situation. So let's take another example. MD, doctor. Stereotypical doctor. Somebody give me some descriptions of a doctor. Good looking? Spoken from the doctor. Okay, what else? Knowledgeable, yes. Knowledgeable, educated, what else? What was that? I didn't catch that one. Self-serving, I heard self-serving. Bad handwriting, okay, but they are educated? Expensive. Are they confident? Are they a trusted advisor before you even walk in the door? How'd they do that? Education. School, right? So they've got some kind of designation that they've already earned the credibility and trust before you've even showed up. So which do you want your sales organization to be? The doctor or the stereotypical salesperson? Would you like to be the yard doctor, the window doctor, the nutritional doctor? I mean, you know, but that's what we're talking about. So we'll talk about how to do that. Okay. So here's one of the things I pay attention to. Consultative selling, in my mind, is helping people get what they want. Even if they don't recognize what they need, it's really about helping them get what they want. You know the expression or the TV commercial or radio, friends don't let friends drive drunk, right? But yet, when you look at what you sell or what you offer, what you provide, how many times do you let a prospect or a client buy the wrong thing? And so I take that commercial and I go, well, if I wouldn't let my friends drive drunk, or I wouldn't let my friends buy the wrong thing, then why wouldn't I let my prospects, why wouldn't I hold the same standard there? Why do I let them do things that are against their best interest because I just want to make the sale? Or because I don't want to butt heads a little bit, right? Oh, this is what they want, okay, sell it to them, and boom. But what happens when you sell them the wrong thing? Trust is lost because eventually you get found out, right? And then when you get found out, whatever profit you made on that deal, you're going to end up giving it back. Why? Because you're going to overservice them and try to make good on it or refund it, and you're going, why didn't I just do the right thing in the first place? So I take a look at a sales call, and when I walk in, I pay attention to, whether it's on the phone or face-to-face, how do they treat me from the very beginning? Who plays poker? I know here we are in Vegas, you know, gambling all over the place. And when you play poker, do you show everybody your hand? You keep it back, right? You keep it reserved. Now imagine if we played poker or did a sales call in a doctor's office. Well, I'll just give you the example. So I walk in the doctor's office, and he or she is not the trusted advisor in my mind. And I think it's a sales call. So I walk in, I'm the patient, and the doctor goes, but what does the doctor do when you go in? They ask you? Yeah, what's the problem, right? And then you just start telling them. Now what happens? They go, what's the problem? I go, I'm not going to tell you. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you. And then he asks a couple questions. I go, okay, I'll tell you. My back hurts. And not only does my back hurt, but I've decided I want back surgery. And I want back surgery by next Monday, and I'm going to talk to 3 other doctors, and I'm going to take the lowest bid. That's what happens, isn't it? So what I'm going to encourage you to do is have the mindset of being a doctor. Now, you've probably heard this analogy before, but there's a difference between living it and understanding it. So that's what happens if sales calls were done, if the doctor acted like a salesperson. Here's the flip side of that. The doctor acting as a salesperson, you walk in, you say, my back hurts, and what does he or she do? They pull out a flip chart, right? And then they start giving you all these examples. Oh, your back hurts. Tell you what. Let me explain about the back a little bit. And oh, by the way, we got a special going on. And if you sign up today, we got 30% off on back surgery if you get it done by Friday. And we'll throw in the Ginsu knives that we use to operate on your back. Okay? But yet, that's what happens in sales calls every day. Does everybody follow? Is it true? Am I being harsh here? Okay, so that's what happens. Now, what I'm going to encourage you to do is be the doctor, but it doesn't necessarily come easily. So, playing poker, Doctor's office. So here's 3 components of the consultative sell. And I'm just going to give you the 3 elements. We're assuming relationship, some kind of relationship is already built. Okay, so I'm not even going to spend time on relationship. We all know we need to build relationship. So here's 3 components. First component is there's some kind of presentation. Not necessarily in this order, but it's one of the components. The second thing is, come on, qualifying. There's some kind of qualifying. Some of you have to do a lot of qualifying. Some of you like qualifying depending on the sophistication and number of people involved in your process. And there's a close. By the way, everybody wants to know how to close better. Do you know if you got to close, you've missed something on the front end? Because the close should be a nice, easy, natural flow and a foregone conclusion. So if you're having the hard close, you're doing something wrong on the front end. You're making it way too much work. So here's 3 components. Now, not all selling is the same. There was a study done, which I'll show you here in a second. 3 competitors, all doing consultative selling. Can everybody see the screen okay? Okay. So 3 competitors, all doing consultative selling. However, the first company, column 1, 4-month sales cycle, 90% close rate. They were all selling the same thing, complex sell, multiple people involved, large dollar items. So 4-month sales cycle. The second company had a 8-month sales cycle and a 60% close rate. So twice the time and a third less the closing. And the third company had a 14-month sales cycle and 2% close rate. Which one would you prefer to be? Right? Number 1. So let's take a look at what the difference was. Okay, the first one had an approach that I call tit for tat. Anybody know what tit for tat is? It's, you know, I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine, but there's a lot of trading that goes back and forth. And it's equal and mutual. The second one had what I call a traditional approach, and I'll define these in a second. A very traditional consultative approach, which you'll see all over the place, and it's effective, but it's not nearly as effective as the first. And the third one had what I call the spray and pray. You go out, you talk to everybody, hey, you want to see what we're doing? Can we give you a proposal? And they just start sending proposals, and they're a proposal factory. Anybody seen those? Okay. And your salespeople confuse sending out a proposal with having a qualified candidate. But what happens is this. When their pipeline gets thin, their bravery goes down, and they start throwing stuff against the wall to see what will stick, because they're just hoping. So let me show you the approach. The tit for tat approach took a qualify, close, and present in those 3 sequences. They qualified first, they closed second, and then they presented. Now the close in this case is really, you might call it a pre-close. It's a pre-close. But it's, hey, if we can find out all your requirements and we can meet those and we can show you that we can do exactly what you need, is there any reason why you wouldn't buy from us? Now it's kind of an amateurish way of saying it, but to get the concept across, that's the concept. Okay. The second one, the traditional approach, is qualify, present, and close. Right? Qualify, present to the need, close, and there's usually some chasing that goes on here, because what happens when you go for the close? What do you hear? Maybe I want to think it over, I need to talk to a couple other people, and that's what happens, right? The third one is present, qualify, and close. Present everything that you can, demos, trials, test drives, price quotes, proposals, and hope that it sticks. And then you chase and chase and chase, trying to qualify them. Hey, what do we do? Let's do some business. And then you go to close, and that's just really frustrating. Now, don't get me wrong. That works when you got a brand new startup business and you need to go talk to everybody in the world. It's a good way to canvas and get started, but you'll quickly go from that into the traditional one. And as you get even better, you'll go from that to the tit for tat when you get way too busy or your resources start to get stressed. And you'll find that is the most effective way of working. So, why the tit for tat approach from my perspective? 45% or 45 times higher close rate, 3 times faster. Who'd like faster and more closes and faster, right? Okay. 60 professional buyers that I showed the models to all preferred this model. When I say professional buyers, 20 years of professional buying experience for corporations, from everything from pencils to buildings to computers and all the stuff in between. They all said they liked this approach better. That's from the buyer. Why? Because it didn't waste their time. It was mutual agreement every step along the way, and they really appreciated that. That to them was professional. By the way, the other thing they told me is over the last 20 years, they've noticed a decline in the professionalism of salespeople. They said they're not as knowledgeable as they used to be, and their skills aren't what they used to be. In 20 years, there's been a decline. Okay. This approach eliminates negotiating and discounting because it does all the hard work on the front end. You eliminate competition, you found out what their requirements were. If you're not a good fit, you've weeded yourself out now before you've gone too far, but it eliminates negotiation qualification. And there was a 2-year study done of game theorists, mathematicians, strategists, and what they determined in a situation that's competitive, this is the only way to win. So anybody play tic-tac-toe as a kid? You still play it. Good, I like that. Yeah, I need to get back in touch with that side, right? So how do you win tic-tac-toe? Don't play? Well, that's why you can't win, you just don't lose, right? How do you win tic-tac-toe? You have to go first, right? What happens if you go second? Yeah, the best you can do as second place is tie unless they royally mess up, right? So when I say tit for tat, it's really you're playing tic-tac-toe. And it's the most effective way to work, especially in a competitive situation. So here's what the study didn't tell you. Company 1 used a strategy, and they had market data, and Chet a couple of times has mentioned that market data is way more powerful than product information, to become the trusted advisor. By the way, that company was called, for some of you may know it, some of you may not, EDS, or Electronic Data Systems. Okay? Company 2 had the strongest brand recognition. Remember, 8-month sales cycle, 60% close rate instead of 4-month and 90%? That company was called IBM. The third company just went out and did a bunch of low bids, threw it out there, chasing deals like a dog chasing a stick. I mean, I got this visual, and I'm going, like, here, salesperson, come here, come here. Okay, here, see this stick, see this proposal? Okay, ready? Go get it. Oh, good boy, bring the proposal. Yeah, good salesperson. That's what's happening. Okay. This company was called Ernst & Young. Surprising? Surprising? Okay. All brand recognition, but they each one had a totally different approach in how they did this, and way more effective. Okay. The cost of discounting. Tony the other day talked about seeing patterns in people, recognizing the patterns and changing things. One pattern that I see in all the salespeople that I've worked with is they all naturally just want to offer a discount without even having it asked for. I about fall on the floor every time I hear somebody go, oh, and yeah, we can offer a discount. Now, have you ever sat down and really taken a look at the cost of discounting? Yeah, let's take a look at it because it's painful. So here's what I want you to really get. If you have a 20% profit margin and your salesperson gives a 10% discount, is a 10% discount a reasonable discount, folks? Yeah, 10%, okay, 10%. Guess what happens? You've got to sell double the business to make the same profit dollars. Let me explain that again. Let's say you do a deal, and I'll just use some small numbers. You do a deal and you make $1,000 profit on that deal. But the salesperson then discounts at 10%. Okay? So now what happens is that profit is $500, not $1,000. Now you've got to sell 2 deals. What just happened to your workload? The salespeople now have to go out and sell twice the amount for you to make the same amount of profit. What do you think happens in tough economic times? Everybody falls back to discounting. Why? Market pressure, maybe. What else? Desperation, fear, absolutely fear. What else? They didn't establish themselves as a trusted advisor. They didn't educate the prospect or the client as to how to make decisions or buy things that are in their best interest to make them more effective. Okay? There was no value built. Exactly. There was no value. So when there's no value and there's no differentiator and you're not the trusted advisor, what's the last thing you have to fight with? Price. Discounting. And it's a lack of sales skills and a lack of value and a lack of being a trusted advisor, which, by the way, if you had a core story, the core story nips all this right in the bud, takes care of it. But this is what's killing you and you don't even know it, and it's just one little thing your salesperson does. They discount. Ouch. Anybody realize that? Okay, so let's go a little deeper. Strongest approach ever. Strategy, market data, focus, tit for tat gives you exponential results. Going out of business strategy, discounting, spray and pray, and you're done. By the way, the Ernst & Young division that did this study was Ernst & Young Consulting. They're out of business. Not pretty. Okay, so 4, a salesperson to be really effective, they need the trusted advisor approach. That's what your marketing does, marketing done right. That's what your core story does, core story built properly. Gives them educational-based marketing, puts them in a trusted advisor role from before they even begin. They need to focus on ideal clients so that they're effective. Proper activity and follow-up. Chet talked about faxes, phone calls, emails, following up on everything. That is going to leverage the salesperson's activity. Effective consultative sales process. I just showed you 3 consultative sales processes. Some more effective than others. Is the one you're using now giving you the maximum results? Okay. Proper mindset. Tony talked about state change. The thing I see with salespeople is the mindset, the state change. If they're in fear, it's hard for them to hold their margin. If they're in fear, it's hard for them to dig for the value. If they're living in fear, then it's hard for them to stay and fight and say, what's the value of this to you? And they default to the spray and pray approach. They need to ask good, tough, thought-provoking business questions and be able to listen, because what happens when you ask a thought-provoking question? You got to shut up. They got to think about it a little bit, right? Don't step on their thinking. And they need the ability to read 4 personality types, because depending on the personality type, you have to adjust. If somebody's analytical, what can you anticipate they're going to need? Facts, figures, data, and lots of questions, lots of information. If they're a driver type and they make decisions quickly, and you tend to be analytical, what do you not want to do? You don't want to kill them with data. They just want, give me the 5 bullet points and let me make a decision. Okay? And the last thing is master the art of the takeaway. This is a skill. The skill to be able to take something away, I'm going to call it reverse selling. But the mindset is their job is to sell me, not me to sell them. My sisters would call it playing hard to get. Okay? Because you make them chase you, not you chase them. And if you've done the right marketing, you're in a much stronger position to be able to do that. That's also how you find the value. So proper mindset. Focus on the client, not the order. Find ways of digging for the value. Only they can tell you what the value is. So you've got to facilitate finding the value. Play doctor, not poker. Facilitate, don't sell. I'm going to ask questions to facilitate, but it may not be a deal at the end. Okay? Insist on an open conversation. Also insist on equal business stature. I've got to be an equal. If I don't start off as an equal, I'm done. So you've got to start off on equal footing. More proper mindset, let's play fair or not at all. Don't do bad deals or you're going to buy it back. They sell me, I don't sell them. And mutual degrees of commitment every step along the way, okay? And the last thing is access to the right people. If you're selling to couples and only one of the spouses shows up, that's a problem. If you're talking to somebody who's an influencer and not a decision maker, then guess what? You're going to get the wrong information. So, pros versus Joes. Okay, and I'm going to wrap up here. Who here played sports in high school? Okay, anybody remember or did cheerleader or band or any of those things, right? Do you remember your favorite move? Your favorite music, your favorite dance routine, your favorite play? Everybody remember that? And how long has that been? Don't answer that. Okay. How long has that been? Okay, so here's my question. If you can name that, can you name your sales process? Because for some of you, that was 10, 15, 20 years ago. I trained a group of people, had 2 years of certification in the sales process. They could name their favorite football player, but after 2 years of certification, they couldn't even name their 9 steps. 2 years of training and certification. Ouch. Okay. Don't confuse longevity in a salesperson with experience. Just because they played pickup basketball for 20 years doesn't mean they're a professional basketball player, right? So somebody's been in business selling for a long time, it doesn't mean they're necessarily that great. High performance sales rep, burning desire, roadmap to success, understanding the client's world, power of conviction and belief, how badly do they want it? I did a cold call on Bill Gates. I did a cold call on Steve Case, who ran AOL. I did a cold walk-in on Fred Smith. See, I had to get past 3 security checkpoints to do it. And I got into his office, just cold walk-in. How badly do you want it? Set proper expectations. Most sales managers don't. Ensure accountability and measurement keys. Harness the power of a sales process. Use coaching to build sales muscle. Most sales managers and VPs are not coaching their people, and they should be. IBM, in 1980, you had to go through a year and a half of training and coaching before you could sell. Today, 2 weeks. And has anybody seen the TV show Pros vs. Joes? Okay, where a professional athlete gets to go up against the amateur who's been, drinking the beer and being the mouthy guy, goes, if I could go up against him, I'd just crush him, right? They get thrown around like rag dolls. So you take somebody who's gone through a year and a half of sales skills, training, and coaching versus somebody with 2 weeks, it's the Pros versus Joes. You're going to get slaughtered. So if your salespeople don't have the skills and the processes, they're going to get killed. Okay, utilizing training to increase the team's effectiveness and replacing the weak salespeople with superstars. And Chet was talking about interviewing. So I'm supposed to wrap up. Can I take 2 or 3 questions? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to take some liberty. We'll take 2 or 3 questions. So what do you have?
You mentioned 4 types, and I heard you say analytical and driver.
The four personality types. There's all kinds of different systems out there. I like DISC the most, but there's analytical, which is like the engineer. There's the influencer, who's kind of like the entertainer and the real people person. There's the steady relator, who's kind of like the office manager who gets along with everybody. And then there's the dominant, kind of like Tony, Chet, and me, and probably almost everybody else who's going to be up here on stage, who just take charge and make decisions in a flash. Go ahead.
2 questions. How do you start on equal footing with the client? And can you tell me the story about when you walked in on Fred Smith? What did you say exactly, and how did the meeting go?
Well, as security was dragging me out the door, okay, how do you start off on equal footing? You insist on it. That's how you do it. You insist on equal footing. If you walk in and somebody's not treating you as an equal, and I'll tell you exactly how I did it. When I'm in a meeting and somebody's not treating me the same, I go, listen, there's 2 ways we can do this meeting. You can view me as a doctor, or you can view me as a poker player. If we're going to play poker, we're going to keep our cards like this. We're going to have a meeting that's going to be arm wrestling and wasting time. It's not productive, and if that's what you want, let's just stop the meeting. Or I can be the doctor. You can tell me what's going wrong. I'll do a diagnosis. I can tell you if I can help. I'll lay out some options that I think in your best interest. We'll create it together, and then we'll decide on something, or we may decide not to do business together, but at least it'll be an open and honest conversation, and you'll know what you need to do. So which way do you want to play? And if they say, I want to play poker, then it's your right to say, no, thank you, and walk away. But you have to insist on it. If you don't insist on equality, they're not going to give it to you. With Fred Smith, I got about 2 sentences with him, and then security carted me out the door. Hi, Fred, I'd like to talk to you about, and then security had me by the collar. So, but you know what? Nobody else had been able to do a cold walk-in. I mean, if we don't have time, but I'd love to tell you the story offline sometime about everything I had to go through to get through 2 security checkpoints. And Tony talks about act as if. I acted like I belonged there and had a meeting with him. That's how I got in. Okay, 2 more questions. Yours, go ahead.
The successful company qualify, close, and present.
Yes.
Then we've been taught, why keep selling after you close? So why do you need to present after you close?
You're closing that they're going to make a decision once they've seen what you have. It's a pre-close.
Pre-close.
It's a pre-close. In other words, if I can give you everything that you said you wanted, exactly the way that you wanted it, why wouldn't they buy from you? Right? But if they say, no, I'm not going to buy, something's wrong. Right? You're the dog chasing the stick because you're not getting that deal, or the lamb going to slaughter. Okay? Do we have one question over here?
The process for consultative selling, are you referring to something like a Sandler approach, where you take them to a whole, where you close the doors as you go through the process?
That is one model. I mean, there's lots of models like that. The key is this: see, everybody's looking for, hey, I'll go out and get this model. That's not the way it works. That model is a framework. You've got to then take a look at your buyers, and you got to start then customizing things, right? So it's, what are the steps that I have to go through? What are the questions that I need to know? How do they earn the right to move forward? Okay, so that model or a similar model works. Okay. Okay. Thanks, guys. Thanks.